Hey everyone, Sophia here for my great challenge. Welcome back to my channel and part 2 of my Q&A video. I could not do I could not do the whole video in one shot. It was just too many questions. It was going to be like 3 hours long. So I split it in two because I had a lot of questions. Some of them were repeat between Facebook and Instagram. So I got a haircut. I think you could tell I got a haircut yesterday. Today is Sunday, and I'm doing much better. I wanted to thank you guys for the outpour. There's no other way of describing it. The outpour of kindness and thoughtfulness and caring and support that it emanated from the last video. You guys are awesome, and also very positive about me going on Patreon. I was a little bit hesitant talking about it because people have feelings, and you know, I know this is not the best of times, but there's never really a good time, I think, when you talk about change, big change. And I will do Patreon. Actually, I filmed my first video today, and just saying, you know, my first video is going to be I said I was going to do more personal things on Patreon, and my first video, I don't know when I'm going to post it. I'll probably start within 2 weeks from now, maybe like the first week of July. We took Edward to Seton Hall today, and that's him texting me. He moved to the dorms, and I filmed the whole thing, and it was very bittersweet. But he's bored beyond tears right now because he's not home. It's his first time away from home by himself, so that was something else. So that would be the first video I'll put on Patreon when I launch it. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to go back into the questions. I'm going to pick up exactly where I left off. Okay. I was giving you a quick update on what's going on. You all know I'm recovering from COVID. It's one of those things where you think you're better, and then you realize that you are really not. I get really tired, like really, really fast. It's amazing. Yesterday I was doing a video in the garden, which you're going to see next. It has a garden update, by the way, because you guys have asked. Some of you have asked for a garden update, so there's like a tour and all of that. But I was building a mini patio, brick patio, like not big, it's about this big, that's it, for a fire pit. What was that? That was a weird sound. For a fire pit that was given to me by a company for a review, and I gotta tell you, I was exhausted, and it was not a lot of work, but I was exhausted. Like I really felt tired, like my legs were... What is that noise? Do you hear that? It's weird. But anyway, I really had a hard time with it. So I'm doing much better, breathing no problem, sleeping well, no nose being plugged or anything, but I'm just physically really, really tired. And I have to be honest, I have not been eating properly at all for the past 2 weeks. So I've put on, you know, some pounds over again, and I think this is what's also contributing to me not feeling well. So I gotta rein that back in. Okay, Fran asked me, how did you figure out you had... This is the weirdest sound. I don't know. It sounds like somebody's old-fashioned horn. What is it, Willie?
A train.
Huh?
A train.
A train? There's no train track in town.
There's one near the town.
Okay, alright. A friend asked, how did you figure out you had AIP? AIP is not something you have. That's a diet. But you're talking about autoimmune. And what are the signs to look for? Okay, so that was the first one. And then she asked about Scott's work. Okay, so I found out because I really wasn't feeling good. I was really, really tired. At the time I was taking levothyroxine, and I had told my doctor that that was not the right med for me. I gained 27 pounds in 7 months on levothyroxine. I could tell I wasn't well, but the biggest issue was that I had joint pain, like serious joint pain. Like those 2 fingers here would not work. My knees were killing me. My elbow was killing me. If you remember, I couldn't lift my left leg. So there was a host of other issues, and I was just exhausted all the time, and I was emotionally drained. And I started developing a ton of allergies, mostly to synthetics and other chemicals. And then I started having massive hair loss and psoriasis. Well, I thought it was just eczema. Turns out it's psoriasis on my scalp. So I went to see a second doctor, and he did a whole panel. So you go see an endocrinologist, and he does a whole panel that covers all of the hormones, all of the thyroid hormones, and all of the markers for things like autoimmune disorders. And I came up as having markers for a whole list of autoimmune disorders. I already have Hashimoto, that's for my thyroid. So he put me on Synthroid instead, and night and day, night and day in terms of the reaction to it. But I came up positive for a whole bunch of other stuff. That doesn't mean if you have the markers that you have that. So he just, we worked together, and then he referred me to a rheumatologist and a naturopath, like a functional therapist, a functional doctor, that's what they called. And we worked together. We looked at the blood work, we looked at my symptoms and all of that. And they came up with, Hashimoto plus arthritis plus psoriasis, which I have. But the symptoms really were nothing short of sheer exhaustion. I was just exhausted all the time. And I never woke up in the morning feeling rested. And then there was the physical limitation. There was some stuff I just couldn't do anymore. Like the stairs were becoming difficult. I couldn't do my bike. I couldn't lift things. I was just exhausted. And then the brain fog. It was really, really difficult in the height of all of the symptoms. So that's how I found out, because I was just not feeling well at all. And I thought it was the levothyroxine. And my endocrinologist said that probably so too, when you're not well and the medication you take for your thyroid is actually doing the opposite of what it's supposed to do, which it was doing for some reason. I don't know. Not everybody can take levothyroxine, even though it's a generic of Synthroid. There's fillers in it, and there's other agents in the levothyroxine that makes it that some people like me are very sensitive to it, and that's what makes us sick. I would say the majority, if not all of those symptoms, have resolved themselves since I've started doing the AIP, which is autoimmune protocol. And yes, I will do a video on it. But again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you any kind of medical advice. I just want to put this big disclaimer out there. I'm just, again, telling you what my experience is. In the past 2 weeks that I haven't been doing it, I can tell you some of the symptoms are coming back. I'm starting to feel it in my knees again. My elbow is bothering me again, and the thing in my neck is starting to get scaly again. So in 2 weeks, I reversed every good work that I had done, but you know what? I'll get back on it. So that's the answer. Okay, the next question was about Scott. Is Scott still looking for work? I talked about that, as he decided to do work per diem. Right now, he's got a third interview. I think it's Tuesday, actually, for a company that does video teaching. Like, everybody moved to that with the pandemic. So there's a big industry that's booming on that. So it's like something classroom, I can't remember, digital classroom or something like that. So he's doing a third interview with them, but freelance, he had one freelance since January, just one, and it was like a 3-day thing, that's it. But he's looking. Ideally, he wants a full-time job, remote, If he can't do remote, we'll have to go get another car because I don't have my work car anymore. Okay, so that's what's going on. What's new with the boys? I talked about it in the last video, so these were all friends' questions. Okay, Jen is asking me how I learned to speak English. I know you met Scott while he was in the Navy. No, I didn't meet Scott while he was in the Navy. I'm dying to know about your love story and how you came to the US. Okay, I think that's in one of my previous Q&A, but if you are new, I'll talk about it again. Scott was discharged from the Navy in 93 and we met in 98. He was, it's a cute story actually. I was a waitress at a restaurant that no longer exists. That was at the corner of Broadway and 21st Street in New York. And I had been there a good 5 years at least. So I was a waitress there. It was a Friday night. I can tell you exactly which Friday night. It was April 12th. And then this guy comes in and sits by himself at the counter and pulls out a book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So you know me, you know, if I see a Barnes & Noble bag, I gotta ask. So I served him and I asked him about the book and we started talking about the book and the rest is history. He came back 2 Fridays later, same time, and you know, we exchanged numbers and that was it. So he was not in the Navy. That was your question, right? And how did I learn to speak English? Okay, so I came originally as a exchange student for film school. I was in film school in Paris, in north of Paris, and I had the opportunity to do an exchange program with Brooklyn College, and initially it was supposed to be just a 1-year thing. I knew in my heart of heart that I wasn't coming back to France. I always wanted to be an American and live here, always, since I was this big. You know, I grew up watching American movies and you know, and I know that it's not real. I get that, but at the time, you know, when you grew up, this is like America was something else, you know. Everybody in Europe was looking up to America as being the beacon and the, you know, the standard. So I got wrapped up in that. And I did the exchange program. But in order for you to be an exchange student, you have to have proficiency in English. And I did very well in the writing part of it. You know, the reading comprehension, you read something and then they ask you questions in English and you answer. I did very well in that, but I did very poorly in the oral part of it because it was one of those things where I can understand. At the time I could understand English and read it and write it, but I could not speak it because there was really no way for me to practice it. I had nobody around me who was English speaking, so I was really not speaking it. And even though I had at the time, boy, they were expensive. We're talking VHS, okay? You know, the tapes. I used to buy English movies with English subtitles. One of the first one I had purchased at the time, and they were like the equivalent of $90 a tape back then, was Close Encounter of the Third Kind. So I know that movie by heart from beginning to end because I watched it so many times to learn to speak English so I could hear it, read it, and then I would repeat the sentences. Well, I still failed the oral part of the test, the ESL test, but they let me in anyway because I guess that was just a percentage of everything else. But my first year, I came in July 22nd, 1992 to New York. My first year was very, very difficult. I could not communicate at all with people. And then I guess it's one of those things once you get immersed, and you really don't have a choice, you start to really speak it. So I have a much thicker accent at the beginning. My kids love it when I speak like that. So it was very difficult, but I think I managed pretty well. And here we are 30 years later. I still have an accent, but I think that people don't catch the French. right away. But what I can tell you is that the one thing that really, really helped me was to have a dictionary. I used to carry this humongous, was it Merriam-Webster or something like that? One of those humongous dictionary that I had purchased at the Brooklyn College bookstore. And whenever I was in class, because I was doing film school, I would just like, anytime there was a word I did not know what it meant, I would immediately go to the dictionary. I mean, this thing just fell apart after 2 years. I think there was maybe like 5 pages left. I mean, it was just like disintegrated. And then once I got my degree in film, because that was the last year, that's when I decided to stay. And my English was much better because it was a year later. And that's how I got into psychology. So that was the story. And I guess I'm answering all the questions on there, right? So yeah, Scott had been discharged from the Navy in '93, and then he went into Parsons School of Design. And when we met, he had just finished Parsons School of Design, and he was working for a company. He was doing graphics for popcorn tins. You know, like the big popcorn tins, and the little trash can that we have in our office that we've had for years is one of the designs that he did. And then after that, he went to work for MTV and Nickelodeon and all of these guys. So that was the question from Jen. Okay, next, let's take a break. Okay, I'm back. Cheryl asked, what kind of planning management system do you like, paper or digital? Okay, I tried digital. I can't do it. I just can't do it. And it's not like, I'm not into stickers. I'm not into that decoration. I tried. It's a waste of time for me. I've tried a gazillion planner. I usually pick ring binders. I love my Franklin Covey and my Halifax, but in the past 2 years, I've been using a Hobonichi traveler's notebook because I've broken down what I need in a planner to the point where I really don't need a lot of space anymore. I like to have a monthly and then a weekly on one page. I can't do the daily anymore. But I do have 2 planners right now, and I have to for various reasons. One is strictly for work, and it's like a week at a glance, and it's a basic week at a glance. It's not like a fancy, probably a Staples brand or something like that. And then I have my traveler's notebook that I use to jot down ideas, and then I plan all our billing in it, all our appointments, all of my videos, you know, when I'm editing, when I'm posting, things that I want to learn. Like for instance, there was something about IG the other day, Instagram, that I wanted to learn. I haven't done it yet. So it's written there. But things like that. So I use that as a personal planner, and then I use my week at a glance for work only, because I don't want to mix both. But I tried digital, and I just can't. I can't do it. It's not. I even tried the calendar on the phone. I just don't look at it. I like paper, I like the physical. It's kind of like books. I tried reading books or e-books. I just can't do it. I have to have the physical copy in my hand, and I need to be able to write. I know a lot of people move to digital planning, but that's not for me. Okay, so that was Cheryl's question. I'm going through all of them, okay? That's Mona. Mona is asking if I determined the cost of the bedroom project before starting the work, and did the cost differ much from your arrangements? I went by what was in my Etsy bank account, because I can't take money from a regular account where my income goes in, because that's what we need to run the household. So I went by what I had in my Etsy, because that's separate. And I had a little bit under 2,000, and this is what I said. I'm going to do this bedroom, and it's got to be under 2,000, because I really, really can't spend anything else. And it's been under 2,000. So far, we're still at 12 something. I can't remember. I think it's 1281 or something like that. And we haven't bought the wood yet for the floor. So altogether, it's going to be about 18 something. once I'm done, which is really on the cheap considering everything that I've done. But the lumber is what costs the most. Those big sheets are almost $80 each, and I had to get 3 of them. So that was a chunk. And then the paint was a chunk. The lumber for the closet was a big chunk. The shelving, you know, I mean, and then it's all the little stuff like the new brushes, and you need to replace this, and you need specific screws and you know, accessories for your drill, you know, all sorts of things, like the little tools that I didn't have that I had to purchase. So these are the little ones that, you know, at the end of the day, they start to accumulate. The hardware was a lot of money, but mostly it's the wood that costs the most. And these little trims, forget it, that's crazy. Like these ones I think were $13 for one, and then this one was something like $23 for the larger one. So the trim it's the little detail that end up costing you the most money. So that's how I determined the budget. So I didn't go above yet. I don't think I will, but I found a rug. I found a rug on the street. No shame, okay? It's gonna have to be thoroughly clean. It's not actually dirty at all, but I'm gonna have to clean it. And I have a rug cleaner, so I can do that. But I found a rug that's a little bit modern, that's blue and white, so that's gonna come in here. I still have the chair to do, so that's gonna cost a little bit of money because I'm actually thinking of reupholstering it. Rather than trying to be, you know, stupid about it and painting it. It may not look good, but I can reupholster that, so that's gonna cost money. And then what's gonna probably cost the most is the wood for the floor, and then all the fabric for the quilt. So it's the little stuff. Okay, so that was from Mona. Amanda asked, what do you suggest when a social worker burns out? Do you have times of nesting in burnout? Okay. First of all, do you even know you're burning out when you're working in this field? And a lot of times we realize that we're going through burnout and it's too late. I can tell you that for me, burnout looks like a lot of sarcasm and like I become like really jaded, like really jaded. Like when you stop believing in the company's mission is when it's time for you to go. And you know, non-for-profit is very difficult. Social work is super difficult. You will burn out. And it's super easy to say, well, don't take the work at home. But when you're dealing with a lot of crisis and you're dealing with a lot of people, a lot of cases that are really sad, traumatic, crisis cases, it's very difficult to go in your car and just say, oh, I'm done, let me go home. You tend to carry it with you. As much of a professional as you are, you end up carrying it with you. So it weighs down on you after years. But there's one thing that I've realized quite a long time ago is that as much as we care, and this is going to sound horrible, and I know I'm going to get a lot of comments about that, but let me tell you, okay, and this is not me being jaded or disappointed in a career or anything, but since we've moved to fee-for-service, everything has changed. It's all about the numbers, and we are replaced in a heartbeat. If you can't do the job anymore and you're burned out and you decide to leave, trust me, nobody's dying because you're leaving. They will replace you and they will find somebody else to do it. No questions asked, no problem. And they keep rotating people. And if you are in social work, you know what I'm talking about, because the turnover is huge. And I'm just aghast that there's really nobody at corporate level who looks at the company and says, like, man, our turnover is really high. Like, what is it that we're doing wrong? What is it that we can do to retain our people? And they just don't do that, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all about the numbers. If the numbers are right, there's no problems. but morale is super low in social work. Like, we are burnt out. So if you find yourself to be burnt out, my advice to you is start looking somewhere else, because chances are you're not going to be able to make enough changes in the way you work, because it's culture. It's culture. You can't change culture. It's just the way the companies work and the way this particular fields work. So just jump boat, go somewhere else, find another job. I'm not saying find another job every 6 months, all right? If you get burned out after 6 months, then it's you. But if you give your company so many years and so much of your time, and at the end, if it feels like it doesn't make any difference, it's just a drop in the bucket and nobody really cares whether you're bleeding or not, it's time for you to go. So take care of yourself. And they always do those town hall, we want to talk to you about meditation and self-care and all of that. No, the self-care has to come from above, not, you have to know what it is that people are doing in the field, and how taxing field work is. I can tell you that out of my team that I left, 3 more people left after me. It's a complete turnover in terms of what the team looks like. Like, the team I left is nothing like the team that's going on right now. Like, people just, I'm not saying they were inspired, but they just couldn't do it anymore. And there's this culture in a lot of social work and in the field that is so difficult to break. And everybody's got great ideas on how to change it, but rarely are those ideas being implemented. And I think this is what's so disheartening for people who are in the field, that they come up with really good ideas, and we always get the lip service about, oh, this is a great idea, but it never gets implemented. It's never getting done. So it's, it's a feel good for the 15 minutes of a meeting, and then it's back to regular business. But I think that in the social work, for those of us who continued to work during the pandemic, when everything was closed and everybody stayed home, and we were all first responders and essential workers, and we continued to work regardless of what was going on with the pandemic, it took a toll on people, like a serious toll. Like, I can tell you that on my team, a lot of people started to really question whether this was what they wanted to do, because it just felt like, everybody is in this pandemic thing. We're all in lockdown, but for us, it didn't mean anything. We just kept going. We were in our car every day, seeing patients, distributing meds, doing therapy. It just made no difference for us. We continued doing it. And then once it reopened, we kept going. And there was really no transition or no discussion about how difficult that was. So look out for signs of burnout. Some of them is fatigue, no longer caring, snapping at people. When you start having countertransference issues, when you start complaining and this is all you do, or you walk in the office and within 15 minutes you start complaining and you get really agitated and angry or resentful, or and it's like not, and once in a while, it's like almost a daily occurrence. These are all signs of burnout. And then when you stop doing your job, that's also a sign of burnout, because some people lash out and some people internalize it and they just become paralyzed. So I guess you asked me that because you are in social work, so look out for those. And yes, self-care is important, but you have to have outlets outside of your job. And I think that's the biggest issue that social workers have, is that we identify so much with who we are professionally. We're in the helping profession. This is what we do. We're caretakers. So this is not going to stop. We're always going to be that. But when you become solely a caretaker and somebody who fixes other people's problems, what happens is that you totally forget you. So you have to start to learn to going back to basic self-care. Carve out time for yourself, pick a hobby, and you have to be able to say no. no to this, no to that. No, I'm not going to do this. This is what I need to do. Towards the end, I'm telling you, I was so exhausted. I had to tell people, listen, boundaries. Stop asking me to do reports on the weekend. Like, really, this is totally inappropriate. And they got mad because I was doing it this whole time. And then I stopped doing it. And people just didn't accept that as a answer. Like, they were just like, what do you mean? Well, it's just, but you do them fast. I know it's only going to take you a half an hour. I don't care. Stop asking me to do work on the weekend. I'm not paid for that, and I need to have a life outside of work. So you got to look at all of those little things. Again, it's the culture. All of those little things that adds on. And at the end of the week, how much more of your regular 9 to 5 have you given for free? And how much of that extra work is affecting your family life, your personal time, and your mood, your emotions, your sense of well-being? And if the answer is all of the above, then you need to start making serious decision about whether or not you want to pursue in that direction. Because I'm telling you, they will replace you in a heartbeat. I chose to leave, but I'm sure that, if I had been let go, they would have found somebody within 2 weeks, because dime a dozen for social workers, all right? They're all out there. There's plenty of people coming out of schools ready to take the job. So take care of yourself. But by taking care of yourself, I'm not talking about putting on a mask and putting your feet up and reading a book. I'm talking about like really, really deep work about what really matters and your value system, and how much of yourself are you willing to give, and how much of yourself are you willing to protect. So you got to ask yourself those questions. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, let's take a break and then we'll do another few questions. Okay, I'm back. Here's an interesting question from Karen. Why do women put so much pressure on themselves, clean house, laundry, etc.? Now that I'm retired, it's so nice not to have that pressure anymore. Well, if you're retired, you also don't have the kids and everybody else to take care of, right? Where does the pressure come from? Culture, again. It's funny because there's like this whole feminist movement in the 70s. We all wanted to be liberated and do all of those things. But at the same time, like the whole traditional perception of women having to do all those things never really got shaded off. Like, it's like we want to be all of the above, like super ultra performing and career woman, but we still have everything else to tend to. But I think it's changing, and I'm seeing more and more couples that are actually sharing the household chores and all of that. But why do we put more pressure on ourselves? I keep up talking about culture. I think that's just what it is. I mean, if you look at movies, commercial advertisement, we still see a lot of that perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect employee, perfect everything out there. And I think that we condition from very little to be a certain way, like girls do this and girls are expected to do that, and we have to have a certain set of skills in order to keep a husband, or you know what I mean, right? So there's even though we've made great advancement in terms of being a woman with careers and with opportunities, salaries and all of that, we're nowhere near where we need to be, but it's better than where we were 20 years ago. This whole fashion way of looking at women is still there. And we put pressure on ourselves because because pressure was put on us as kids to be a certain way. My mom is 85, and if I do a video where I don't look good, or I obviously didn't do my hair, or my makeup is really not good, or I have no makeup or whatever, I can guarantee you I get either a phone call, an email, or a text about how can I just show myself like this. And there's an old-fashioned way of looking at things. I mean, I know you got to be presentable, but it's like we need to normalize being without all of this without having to be put together. Like, you know, it's getting insane. So when you look on Instagram, there's like the best of both worlds. Like you have women who are so over the top with those qualities. Everything is perfect. Personally, I think it's all phony, but anyway, they want to be perceived as having all their ducks in a row and everything is great. The house is always spotless and the husband is loving, the kids are perfect, there's never a scream, the milk never overflows. I mean, you know, hamburgers never get burned, the oven is always clean, it's like always perfect, and then they have the perfect purses, the perfect outfits and everything. And then you have the other side where you have women who just want to normalize being a hot mess. I'd like to be somewhere in the middle. I'm more towards the hot mess, but it's cultural expectations, and I don't think this is ever going to go away, because we're talking centuries of grooming women to be a particular way, and you know, how to present, how to talk, how to answer, you know, how to walk a room. And you know, I'm telling you, I'm still getting the comments about how could you come downstairs without brushing your hair. If you are from my generation, you know what I'm talking about, right? Your mom probably told you, like, never show yourself to your husband without brushing your hair. And if you watch old Lucy shows and old shows from the 50s, do you remember how glamorous women used to look when they were going to bed? Like they had the little bonnet on and they had a beautiful wrap, and they would, in TV shows, they still wore makeup to bed and stuff, but they would never show themselves at a disadvantage towards the husband, because it was like a sign of disrespect. So beyond that, come on, give me a break. Okay. But yeah, the pressure, I think it's just society in general, but contrast and compare is the worst thing you can do. Actually, what's the saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. Stop comparing yourself to other people. I'm telling you, it's all fake. It's fake, all of it. Okay, it's not real. People pretend to be happy, they pretend to be rich, they pretend to be clean, they pretend to be organized, they pretend to be all of those things for the most part. Is there people who are naturally all those things? Yeah, but I can guarantee you that they're not on Instagram, because they got other priorities in life. Anyway, all right, next question. Let's take a break and I'll answer the next one. Okay, question from Leanne. Is nursing something you still pursue in the future? If I was to win the lottery, which I don't play, but if I was to win the lottery, I totally would do that. I'll drop everything and I would go back to school and I would become a nurse, and I would want to be a trauma nurse. That's what I wanted to do a long time ago. So yeah, I would totally do this. And if I have nurses watching me right now, I love you. You have my utmost respect. You are awesome, and I love you more than I love doctors, because let's face it, you know more. You do more. No, it's true. It's nurses are always, I don't know, you inspire me. I love you guys. So kudos to nurses. And I should have done nursing, but I went into a different field. How do you and Scott keep your marriage strong? That's the same question from Leanne. Humor, shared interest. We have a lot of shared interest. And then culturally, and value system is the same. Interchangeable, really. So I think we're like two birds of a feather, you know, perfect couple, I don't know. But I guess it comes from the value system, you know, the things we like, how we perceive the world, you know, our worldview. It's just so similar. I really can't pinpoint anything that would be subject of a major disagreement between Scott and I in terms of anything, really, because we even the same when it comes to the way we raised our boys. I mean, I'm probably a little bit more lenient, and you know, oh, baby, than he is, but I think that's what it is. It's like, you know, soulmates happen, and through better and for worse. I mean, obviously this is, you know, a very difficult situation for him right now with the lack of employment, but it's not affecting us as a couple, it's affecting us as a family, but it really hasn't put a dent in the way we look at each other in terms of husband and wife. I don't know if that answers the questions, but it all comes from, are you friends with your spouse? Can you spend endless hours talking about nothing with your spouse? And if the answer is yes, then you're going to keep your marriage strong. But if everything about the person or some things about the other person annoys you, and you end up only focusing on those attributes, then it's going to slowly eat away at your relationship, and eventually you won't be able to be in the same room with the person. We give each other a lot of space, but we also very much in tune with each other. I guess, I don't know, is it love? I guess it's partnership more than anything else, but yeah, there's love in the mix. Question from Patty. Patty wanted to know what kind of fig tree you planted and if it stays out all winter. I tell you what kind of fig tree I have. I have a dead fig tree. The fig tree lasted 2 years, and then we got too much water, and it is on a part of the garden that's a little bit lower, my fault, than the rest of the yard, so the water pools right there where the fig tree is, and it rotted the tree. The tree's dead. I'm going to plant another one, probably in the front yard. I don't know if the deer will get to it. I don't think so, because that milky stuff that's in the fig tree is like acid, and I can't see them eating the fig tree. Goats won't eat fig trees, so I'm thinking deer won't touch it either. And it was a Boston fig tree that supposedly does well in this area, in zone 6 and northern region, New England and all of that, but I killed it with the water. Another question from Janice. Have you ever done a DNA ancestry? No, I don't need to. I know what my ancestry is, so I'm not interested in doing that. I probably would do it for the markers, the genetic markers, you know, like cancer and all of that, but I can't get that at my doctor's, so I don't need that. Plus, I don't know what they do with that information, to be honest. I don't want to sound like a paranoid personality or anything, but what do they do with that information? Who keeps it? You know? Do I want it out there? Not really. And I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Okay. That answers all your questions. And if I forgot one I didn't mention, I apologize. I hope you enjoyed this. I like to do Q&A. I can't do them often. There's got to be a space, you know, like a year in between, because otherwise there's a lot of repetition, and then the people who've heard it once, they'll remember it when you say it again. So I'd like to have a big space of time between the two. But I think that it's important to do Q&As when you are a YouTuber. Some of you have been watching me since the beginning. We're talking almost 10 years, okay? It's going to be 10 years in October of this year, actually. Even though my first video I removed from YouTube. There was something about when I did the table, I extended my table. Before I did the tabletop, there was like big plywood on it. I don't know if you remember that. I had done a whole video about that, but I had used copyrighted music and I got a copyright strike, so I had to remove. It was brand new. I had no idea what I was doing. So I removed that video. But for those of you who've been watching me for going on 10 years, you've watched my kids grow. You've watched me go through ups and downs. You've watched Scott go through ups and downs. You've watched the house get transformed, sometimes for better, sometimes for not. You know a lot of aspects of my life and my family, and you've watched my kids grow. I was just thinking about it when I was doing the video today that's going to be on Patreon about Edward going to Seton Hall and going to the dorms. Like, he's 20. Some of you started watching him when he was 10 years old. And you've watched the kid grow through 10 years. You've seen him go through middle school and high school and marching band and all of his awkward years and his not so awkward years, and now he's a man. That's gotta be, like, I'm not gonna say weird, but I guess people get attached, you know? I know there's a couple of YouTubers that I've been watching for a very long time, from even before they had kids, and I've watched them have kids and struggle with having kids and victories with having kids, and I'm cheering them on, or I'm sad with them because, and we don't know each other, but it's one of those things, like, you get attached to people you watch on a consistent basis. And I guess it makes sense when you do something that upsets others, even though you're a stranger. I get it why, you know, when there's like, and I'm not comparing myself to stars or, you know, big shots on TV or anything, but I always take that as an example because it starts to make sense to me. There was a show on TV that was called Charity. No, not Charity. What was the name? It was the girl with the very long curly hair. What was the name of the show? I forgot. I didn't even watch it. But people were watching the show and got, like, you know, accustomed to seeing her. And one day she showed up in an episode where she had cut her hair. And she got hate mail. For, like, people really got, like, all out of sorts because their character they had associated with for so many years did something that was such a drastic change. They couldn't cope with it. And what was the name of the show? I can't remember. Was it Chastity? Doesn't really matter. You probably know what I'm talking about. And the show died. The show died after one season after she cut her hair because people couldn't deal with it. And so I get it. Like, you know, we've been, or I've been with you for a long time, and you grew to care about me and my family, and I think it's amazing. So I'm trying my very best not to disappoint, not to offend, not to hurt, not to do drastic things that are going to be an upheaval and like requiring for you to adjust, while at the same time still growing and progressing. So again, it's just like what I said last week, there's got to be like a balance. Like, you can never stay the same. There has to be some kind of progression. So Patreon is going to be the progression. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this. I know the feedback was very good for the last, I got something in my eye. The feedback was really good for the last video. People are curious. They have questions, and as long as the question is appropriate and not too prying and not too intimate, I'll gladly answer. No issue. I'm starting to lose my voice again, so it's time for me to stop. That would be it. So what do I have this week for you? I have this video I'm posting on Monday. On Wednesday I have the fire pit and the mini brick patio, and then Friday I'm off. We're celebrating Juneteenth, so I'm off that day. I'll probably do a quilt video and then I'll post that, and then for the weekend I'll figure out something else. That's about it. I hope the lighting wasn't too bad, and I know that half of my face is in the dark, but it's 4:30 in the afternoon. It's time for me to go. I'll talk to you later. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe right here at the corner. Visit me on Facebook and Instagram at My Great Challenge. My Great Challenge gift for channel merch, and Frenchie and Tabby for vintage finds, both on Etsy. And if you're curious as to when I will launch the Patreon, what I'm trying to do is do videos ahead of time so that when I launch the Patreon, I have the first month worth of videos ready. That gives me time to come up with the next month's worth of video, because I don't ever want to be caught not having a video for Patreon and doing something stupid and silly and like, what kind of content is that at the last minute. I'm trying to be, which is not what I do anyway, but you know, I just don't want to feel rushed doing that, because I'm still doing YouTube. So I have to kind of like find, again, balance. I gotta find a balance. So I'll probably start that in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it will be my great challenge on Patreon. Initially, I was gonna call it my great challenge on pins and needles, because I wanted to do just my quilting, and then I decided to do a little bit more personal type videos, you know, just more interesting content. Okay, so I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye. Hey, it's me, and guess what? Click that thumbs up if you really like this video. Thumbs down twice if you didn't. You can also share my video if you really liked it, or save it to watch later. Also, you can subscribe to my channel, but don't forget to click that bell button so you are always notified when I post a new video. Thank you for watching.